Mirabelle fell over. Really? Is she okay? I don't know. I heard at school she just collapsed during swim class. My daughter, Mirabelle, had suffered from hyperventilation during her swimming lesson and was rushed to the hospital. When I arrived at the hospital, Mirabelle was sound asleep. Seeing her peaceful face, I felt a sigh of relief. Susie! How is Mirabelle? Is she all right? My husband, Sean, had rushed over after hearing the news. She's just settled down and sleeping now. Don't worry, the doctor replied, but his expression was somehow grim. Doctor, please tell me straight. As I urged him, almost scolding, the doctor seemed to make up his mind and asked, "What's your daughter's relationship like with her grandparents?" What do you mean by that? I'm asking if she gets along well with her grandparents, the doctor reiterated. Taken aback by the sudden question, I was at a loss for words. Hey, stop insulting my folks, Sean said, trembling with anger. I could see the veins on his forehead, signaling his rising anger. What's wrong with you? I was surprised at my usually stoic husband's emotional display. Well then, I'll tell you. The shocking truth that the doctor revealed made me realize my powerlessness as a mother. My name is Susie Nathaniel, a 42-year-old office worker. Currently, I live with my husband Sean, our elementary school daughter Mirabelle, and my in-laws, making us a family of 5. We used to live separately from my in-laws. However, my job pays well but often requires me to work late, especially during busy periods. Sean, being in a managerial position, often prioritizes his job as well. Sean, who was raised by education-focused parents, has always been career-driven, constantly pursuing greater heights. Even after coming home, he would bring work home, a real workaholic. Consequently, both Sean and I often made Mirabelle feel lonely. Having enough income is good, but this way, Mirabelle is suffering. I said with a sigh during one of our discussions, to which Sean proposed an idea. If you're okay with it, Susie, why don't we live with my parents? They've been asking us to do so for a while now. Sean's father, Anthony, was a long-time employee at a major corporation. And his mother, Emily, was an educator at a prestigious middle school until Sean was born. But Anthony retired early due to a worsening chronic illness. And Emily, after quitting her teaching job, had been supporting the family as a homemaker and recently started part-time work. We, the couple, had been sending a fixed amount of money to my in-laws every month. I was thinking about renovating our family home into a duplex too. Seems like the perfect opportunity. Yeah, living in a house with a yard would be better for Mirabelle than our current apartment. She can have more freedom. Mirabelle's school would be better surrounded by nature than in the city. Every night, after Mirabelle went to bed, we continued our discussions and then reported our decision to my mother-in-law over the phone. So, that's the plan. Is that okay with you? We're more than happy to have you. In fact, we've been hoping you'd ask. I'm glad to hear that, Emily. It's a relief. Thus, our two-family cohabitation proceeded at a brisk pace. We renovated the in-laws' house, making the first floor for them and the second floor for our family. We generally didn't enter each other's spaces, but we made sure we could always reach each other by not installing locks on the doors. Even if my husband Sean and I come home late from work, Mirabelle dines with her grandparents on the first floor, so she won't feel lonely anymore. Still, every morning when I leave for work, I can't help but feel a bit guilty towards my in-laws. Emily, thank you for looking after Mirabelle. While Sean and I are at work, my in-laws always help Mirabelle with her studies. It's no big deal. That's right, Susie. Mirabelle is our beloved granddaughter, too. Don't worry about it. Anthony said, laughing heartily. Mirabelle, be a good girl and listen to your grandparents, okay? Okay, I got it. Then, Emily, Anthony, please look after Mirabelle. Having such reliable in-laws, I felt more at ease to focus on my work than ever before. 3 months after we started living together, I came home early from work one day and found Mirabelle crying and hugging me. What's wrong, Mirabelle? Why are you crying? Mirabelle clung to me without lifting her face. Emily came after Mirabelle and said, Mirabelle seems really happy to see you, trying to stroke her head. But Mirabelle shook her head vigorously, showing she didn't like it. Emily smiled sadly. Mirabelle, that's not good. You always get help from your grandma with your studies. Don't show such an attitude, it's not nice to your grandma. It's probably just a phase where she wants to be more with her parents, right, Mirabel? I'm sorry, Emily. It's okay, I'm not bothered by it. Emily continued to smile gently. Mirabel was working hard on her studies just now. Such a smart girl. When Emily tried to stroke her head again, Mirabel shook her head vigorously in refusal. Mirabel. Mom's gonna get mad. Say sorry to Grandma, okay? When I scolded her, Mirabel reluctantly turned her face to Emily and apologized in a trembling voice. Sorry, Grandma. Mirabel usually seemed very fond of her grandparents, so I didn't think much of it, assuming she just didn't want to study. I'm sorry too, Mirabel. Emily said, with what seemed like tears in her eyes, but quickly laughed it off saying, I think I got something in my eye. As time passed, I noticed something was off not only with Emily but also with Mirabel. Even before we moved in with my in-laws, Mirabel often played alone, but she had never clung to me crying like that before. Yet, she showed such an attitude towards her kind and affectionate grandma. Maybe Mirabel is struggling with something we adults can't understand. Just before bedtime, I discussed it with Sean. If I cut back on work, I could spend more time with Mirabel, and she wouldn't feel so lonely. What's with this all of a sudden? We've talked about this many times. Mom and Dad are looking after her, so it's fine. But even if Emily and Anthony are great, they can't replace a mother. Are you saying you can't rely on them? Sean frowned at me. A look I often saw when he was displeased. That's not what I'm saying, just. Anyway, let's leave Mirabel's care to Mom and Dad. Saying that, Sean turned his back to me as if it was too bothersome to continue and fell asleep. When winter came, my busy work schedule finally slowed down. I'll do the dishes, Emily. You rest. Oh, really? Aren't you tired from work? It's relatively calm now, so I can do laundry and cleaning on my days off. Really? Well, I'll take you up on that and watch some TV. I decided to devote myself to housework, making up for lost time. Sean seemed as busy as ever with his work. Susie's working hard. I'll take care of Mirabel's homework. Are you sure? Aren't you tired? I thought Sean was trying to be helpful, seeing me busy around the house. Leave it to me. Parent-child communication is important. Saying that, Sean puffed out his chest. Mirabel, can you help out Dad? I called out, and Mirabel went to the garage, led by Sean's hand. I smiled, imagining the charming scene of father and daughter. However, I was surprised when Mirabel came out of the garage. Mirabel, is your face a bit red? Her face seemed unusually flushed. Mirabel, looking up at Sean, kept her mouth shut and didn't answer. What's wrong, Mirabel? Why are you quiet? She probably helped out too hard and got tired. Her head's probably all fuzzy. Sean answered for her. Are you really okay? I kept asking, worried, but each time Mirabel just glanced at Sean's face and nodded, yeah, I'm fine. From that day on, Sean started to bathe Mirabel almost every day, no matter how busy he was with work. However, each time after the bath, Mirabel's face seemed unusually red. Could she be sick? Maybe we should take her to the doctor. That's an overreaction. Mirabel is fine, right? You don't feel any pain, do you? Yeah, I'm fine. See, Susie, you worry too much. Sean said, dismissing my concerns about our daughter with a laugh. At that time, I still hadn't realized the extent of my daughter's suffering. Time went on, and the next summer came. Swimming lessons had started at Mirabel's elementary school. Mirabel had always loved playing in the water since she was little, and even as she grew older, she always looked forward to her swimming lessons every year. That's great, Mirabel. Today your favorite swimming lessons start. Yeah, that's right. You haven't swum in a year, did you forget how? Yeah, probably. Mirabel seemed unusually down that morning. The Mirabel who had always eagerly awaited the arrival of summer didn't smile even once that morning. I thought she might be a bit nervous about returning to the pool after so long, but her expression seemed more fearful than nervous. Mirabel, are you okay? I'm okay, Mom. Don't worry. Mirabel forced a stiff smile. You're not forcing yourself, are you? If you feel bad, Mom can call the school and you can stay home. I'm fine, Mom. Go to work. Okay, Mirabelle. Mom's off to work now. Bye, Mom. Mirabelle waved me off with a smile. But her smile still seemed forced. She'll be fine. Emily and Anthony are there, after all. Reassuring myself, I decided to focus on my work. Returning to the office after lunch. Susie, it's urgent! The school called, and Mirabelle has collapsed from hyperventilation. She's been taken to the hospital. My colleague rushed up to me with alarming news. What? Mirabelle has. Go to her quickly. Momentarily paralyzed by shock, I was spurred into action by my boss's encouragement and hurried to the hospital in a taxi. On my way, I contacted Sean. Mirabelle has collapsed. Is that true? Is she okay? I don't know. The school said she suddenly collapsed during her swimming lesson. What's the school doing? If something serious happens, they'll have to take responsibility. Now's not the time for that. I'm on my way to the hospital where Mirabelle has been taken. Got it. I'm heading there too. Even Sean, usually focused on his work, seemed truly alarmed this time. When I arrived at the hospital, Mirabelle was peacefully sleeping in her bed. Seeing her sleeping face, I felt a wave of relief. Mirabelle. I felt dizzy, as if the tension that had been holding me together snapped. Hang in there. Supported by a doctor standing nearby, I managed not to fall. Susie! How's Mirabelle? You. Mirabelle is. I tried to answer, but my words were tangled. She's just settled down and sleeping now. Don't worry, the doctor calmly replied. Doctor, thank you so much. I said, tears of relief streaming down as I bowed to the doctor. However, the doctor didn't show a smile. Instead, he looked seriously concerned. Doctor, what is it? Well, actually. The doctor seemed hesitant to speak. Please, tell me clearly. A fear that something serious might have been found in Mirabelle gripped me. How is your daughter's relationship with her grandparents on a daily basis? The doctor asked carefully. What do you mean by that? I couldn't immediately grasp the intent behind his roundabout question. I'm asking if she gets along well with her grandparents. We get along fine. But why do you ask? I understood the question but couldn't comprehend why the doctor would be interested in that. What could possibly be going on between Mirabelle and her grandparents? A nameless fear was rising in me. As I struggled to respond, Sean, who was behind me, tremblingly said, Hey, what are you trying to say? I could see the anger building in him from the veins on his forehead. What's wrong, Sean? I felt something unusual in Sean's behavior, as he rarely showed his emotions like this. Stop insulting my parents! I'm not trying to insult anyone. I just want to confirm the facts. The doctor replied, trying to calm an infuriated Sean who was about to lash out. My parents care about Mirabelle a lot. Stop making baseless accusations. If you insult my parents anymore, I'll sue you. Sean, calm down a bit. How can I be calm when my parents are being insulted? Doctor, what was the purpose of your earlier question? The doctor sighed deeply, looking troubled. Well, let me explain. He then detailed the circumstances of Mirabelle's arrival at the hospital. She had suddenly experienced hyperventilation while getting ready for her swimming lesson and was brought in by an ambulance. I knew this much from what the school had told me. But the problem was what happened after that. When Mirabelle arrived at the hospital, despite her erratic breathing, she seemed desperate to say something. While the doctor was treating her, he leaned in to listen as she repeatedly apologized, Sorry, Grandma. Sorry, Grandpa, in a semi-conscious state. It's highly unusual for a child to apologize to her grandparents like this in such a distressing situation. It suggests a significant experience. What exactly has been going on between your daughter and her grandparents? I was taken aback by such a sudden question. It was completely unexpected to me. Doctor, I don't understand what you're trying to say. My question was directed not at the doctor but at Sean, who seemed even less composed than I was. What's with that look? Sean, do you know something? His odd behavior made me certain that he was hiding something. I don't know anything. This doctor is talking nonsense. There's no way my parents would do anything terrible to Mirabelle. Sean, who had been angry just moments ago, suddenly burst into laughter. As if trying to hide something from me. It's not nonsense. I'm just stating the facts. Moreover, I have never said that your parents did something terrible to your daughter. Alright, I'll be clear. I believe there's a possibility that your daughter has been suffering at the hands of her grandparents. That's why I've already contacted Child Protective Services. Don't do such things on your own. As a doctor, it's my duty to contact relevant authorities if there's any suspicion. The doctor stood firm in his response. Mirabelle woke up, perhaps disturbed by the adults' heated discussion. Mom? Mirabelle, you're awake. Good. I rushed to her and hugged her tightly as she sat up. You can take her home today, the doctor said, to which Sean responded, of course. I can't leave her with this nonsense, doctor. Let's go home, Mirabelle. He grabbed Mirabelle's hand, trying to make her walk forcefully. Don't touch her. Without thinking, I pulled Mirabelle's hand away from Sean. A tense atmosphere developed between Sean and me, but my primary concern at that moment was for Mirabelle's well-being. In the taxi on the way home, Sean continued to grumble, that doctor is just lying, trying to make my parents look bad. I couldn't take his words seriously and remained silent. What's wrong? Do you suspect my parents too? It's not that, but… Mirabelle! Grandma and Grandpa didn't do anything bad to you, right? No. They didn't. See? Mirabelle says nothing bad happened to her. That doctor was just talking nonsense. I could tell that Mirabelle's response wasn't voluntary. She was clearly coerced by Sean's domineering attitude. Seeing Mirabelle's frightened face, I began to wonder what might have happened between her and my in-laws. Something terrible and frightening must have happened to Mirabelle, something she couldn't even tell me about, something serious. Enough for the doctor to contact Child Protective Services. But confronting them directly would only lead to denial. And there was no proof of any mistreatment by the grandparents. Hey, are you listening? Startled by Sean's shout, I snapped back to reality. Sorry, did you say something? Don't make me repeat myself. If the people from Child Protective Services come, don't let them in. Why not? If there's nothing to hide, why not let them in and show them there's nothing wrong? I argued, though I knew it was futile. What about the rumors in the neighborhood? Think about how it'll affect my career. Sean had always been on a smooth path as an elite, from childhood to his professional life, without ever experiencing failure. He is a man of great pride, is probably more afraid of getting a bad reputation than anything else. Is that pride something he must protect more than his daughter? Lost in thought, my gaze fell on the taxi's dashboard camera. That's it. I remembered something I had forgotten to tell Sean and my in-laws. The next day, I pretended everything was normal with them, submitted a leave request at work, and spent some time at a friend's house. I waited near Mirabelle's school until she finished for the day. Mirabelle! Over here! Mirabelle looked surprised but also somewhat relieved to see me. Mom, what's happening? I'll explain later. For now, let's catch a flight together. We then took a bus to the airport and flew to my hometown, where my parents lived. That night and into the early morning, Sean called me repeatedly. Eventually, finding it too annoying, I reluctantly answered the phone. What's this about? Where have you taken Mirabelle? To a safe place, out of your reach. What? Don't joke around. Just come back and explain properly. I have no intention of coming back. An explanation over the phone is enough. Then at least return Mirabelle to us. Sean's voice was raging through the phone. I calmly replied, I refuse. Why not? What are you saying we did to her? If you don't remember, I'll tell you. You guys were repeatedly doing things that Mirabelle didn't like every day. My suppressed anger exploded. I explained to Sean the sequence of events leading up to this point. On the way back from the hospital, I remembered that I had installed a camera in the living room on the first floor for monitoring purposes. This camera, set up to watch over my elderly in-laws and Mirabelle, sends alerts to my phone if anything unusual happens. It was set up in the in-laws' living space on the first floor, where Mirabelle could freely come and go when Sean and I were not home. It was soon after we started living together. Emily began forcing Mirabelle to do dishes and clean. At first, I thought it was just her way of teaching her granddaughter housework, but Emily never instructed her. Instead, she and Anthony just watched Mirabel work. Mirabel completed her tasks without a word of complaint. But then, after finishing, Emily stopped Mirabel from returning upstairs, saying in a strangely sad voice, "Next, please clean the bathroom." "But I have homework." "I'm sorry, but please do as you're told. If you can't, we can't let you stay in this house. So please, do as you're told, okay? It's for your own good." With that, Emily grabbed Mirabel's wrist, trying to drag her outside. "Please, just listen, Mirabel." The surveillance camera, despite some static, captured audio clearly, including Emily's voice. Strangely, she sounded sad while giving orders. "Grandpa, help me." Anthony did nothing to intervene, just quietly watched the situation unfold. This unbelievable reality unfolding in the footage left me speechless. The abuse from my in-laws towards Mirabel appeared to continue almost daily when I wasn't home. I couldn't believe my in-laws were doing such things behind my back. I couldn't believe that. I told Sean about the abuse but didn't mention the surveillance camera. Misunderstanding, Sean angrily retorted, "Mirabel. After all the discipline we gave her, she talked? Wasn't it enough? So, you were the root of all this?" "What? I only mentioned the grandparents' behavior, not that you were involved." "You tricked me. That's despicable. Which is worse, tricking someone or doing such things to a little girl?" I remembered the days Sean took Mirabel to garage. "I also know what you were doing to Mirabel in the garage." I didn't have solid proof, but I decided to test the waters. It was education. She didn't want to study anymore, and she was satisfied with just 90 points on a test, so I thought I'd re-educate her a bit. Re-educate? How can you even say that? Mirabel is terrified. I just told her not to get out of the car until she could answer the questions I gave her correctly. Sean unwittingly revealed the truth. "You were really angry at the hospital when the doctor asked about Mirabel's relationship with your parents. But it wasn't because you were protecting your parents. You were afraid that they would find out that you forced them to do something they didn't want to do. You refused Child Protective Services involvement for that reason, didn't you?" The surveillance camera footage had recorded Sean threatening his parents. It was clear they weren't mistreating Mirabel willingly. Mirabel's face was always red after coming out of the garage because Sean wouldn't let her out for a long time. The traumatic experience of the garage probably made Mirabel extremely reluctant to go near water. Then, on the day of the swimming lesson at school, Mirabel's mere attempt to enter the pool brought back the painful experience and caused her to hyperventilate. "Because of you, she can't even enter the pool she loves. So what? You don't understand how I feel. I don't even want to know. My father was an elite employee, and my mother was a respected educator. Compared to them, I was always ridiculed for the slightest drop in my grades when I was a child. I didn't want to feel that misery again. That's why I was strict with Mirabel, to ensure she didn't go through the same. That's education." Saying that, Sean burst into a sinister laugh. When my father had to retire early due to illness and they came to me for financial help, I was inwardly thrilled. I thought I had finally turned the tables on them. I told them I'd support them financially, but in return, they had to discipline Mirabel strictly. That was my condition for agreeing to live together. Hearing Sean's twisted inner thoughts sent chills down my spine. I recorded this phone call. And it's not just that. The surveillance camera has recorded you threatening your parents, both in action and voice. I'm going to use this evidence to protect Mirabel. You're finished. Wait. We can talk this out. Sean started to panic at the end, but I had nothing more to say to him. I hung up the phone and blocked his number. I took the surveillance footage, the phone recording, and the medical report from the hospital to the police and Child Protective Services. "This is serious. The video and audio clearly present the evidence," said the responding officer, promising immediate action. Later, I was shocked by a new revelation from Mirabel. When I asked her why she hadn't confided in me earlier, she tearfully replied, "Dad said if I didn't behave, he'd make you, Mom, who's always busy with work, go through the same. I didn't want Mom to suffer. She had always been threatened by her own father. And to protect me, she had to keep her fears and insecurities bottled up inside her still young heart. I could not believe that she was trying to protect me, her mother, even though she herself must have suffered the most." I couldn't help but notice my daughter's pain. Am I still a mother? Cursing myself for being so unworthy, I hugged my daughter tightly as she sobbed. I'm sorry, Mirabelle. Mom was wrong. It's not your fault, Mom. You saved me. Feeling the warmth of her voice, I couldn't stop my tears. Of course, I did. I'm always on your side, Mirabelle. No matter what happens, I won't let you face it alone. I love you and will always protect you. I vowed to never let her experience such sadness again. In the end, Sean was arrested for abuse based on the doctor's report and the recording of our phone call, but my in-laws were shown leniency due to their circumstances. One day, after some time had passed, my gaunt-looking in-laws visited my parents' house. We're so sorry, Susie. Mirabelle. It's too late for apologies now, but we're truly sorry. We knew it was wrong but couldn't refuse Sean's demands. We're terrible parents. Please, lift your heads. Dad, Mom. The surveillance footage shows you were forced by Sean to do those things to Mirabelle. Honestly, I had feelings of blaming them. But blaming them wouldn't change anything. Perhaps sensing my feelings, Anthony kneeled. Despite his painful legs, twisting his face as he bent down. Even if we were coerced, what we did to our dear granddaughter can't be undone. We're not looking for forgiveness. We just wanted to apologize to you and Mirabelle. Maybe we just wanted to ease our own guilt. Mirabelle ran up and gently stroked their backs. Grandpa, Grandma. I'm not angry. Thank you for tutoring me. Their tears fell, and they couldn't look up at their granddaughter. As if saying they didn't deserve to face her. Mirabelle told them, you can come to see us anytime, but they never showed up again. 5 years have passed, and Mirabelle is now a middle schooler. She and I are living under the watchful eyes of my parents. I've explained the situation to my company and switched to mostly remote work. If Sean shows up, the local police will handle it, but I still can't shake off the anxiety. I've attended self-defense seminars and stocked up on security gadgets, fortifying our home's defenses. I'm vigilant about Mirabelle's safety, always accompanying her to and from school. She's gradually regaining her smile. Recently, she's taken to helping my dad with his gardening hobby. Grandpa, look at this huge potato we harvested. Wow, that's a big one. Mirabelle, how about making stew with Mom tonight? Okay, let's do that. My parents seem rejuvenated, both in spirit and appearance, since living with Mirabelle. Just as she tried to protect me, I'm now determined to protect her with all my might. I thought as I gazed at Mirabelle's carefree smile.